Good day, welcome to the Hub. I'm your host, Joel Aaron, along with Barry Trout, who's a regular on the program. And we are down to one, Easter is on the way. We're down to one candy-covered chocolate M&M here. Do you want to split it?
No.
Okay. All right, here's the topic. Now my mouth will be dried out. Okay, topic. Do you know, by the way, that there are a lot more hookers getting on Facebook now? I read this article last week on myway.com.
They're expanding their marketing the same way that everybody should in this new technologically advanced society and social networking, and they are certainly in the social business.
Well, it's certainly an unpenetrated market, and they are going there to open up that market, so to speak. Clearly.
They probably have lots of friends.
I'm sure
they may
they
be
do.
setting up special groups. Facebook has that ability to set up special groups now. So, but I wonder, are they marketing, or are they... When you go to one of their websites, what shows up on that little column for advertisements?
And the problem is you never know what you're getting online. You could show up and you're contacting one of the cast members of The Biggest Loser. It could really be. You got your 300-pound hooker here. Oh yeah, she looks great in panties. Yeah, if you can find them, that's the thing.
Isn't that true on Match.com and
probably
stuff like that
Match.com and Plenty of Fish and all this stuff. I don't know anything about it. I just read about it. Okay, this is research for the program.
Research at Tilted Kilt earlier this week.
Well, true. Now, by the way, Chevrolet for 2 years here has been working on the Chevy Volt and talking about wanting to come out with it. The new hybrid gas electric car that runs on a lithium-ion battery, 220 volt or whatever. They suggest a 220 volt because that way you can charge it on. Yeah, you can charge it on 10 hours a night, which basically means all you're going to have to adjust is your entire lifestyle habit of getting up and going to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. Pour that extra cup of coffee, sleep in 5 days a week. That way you can afford to drive the Chevy Volt and have it fully charged every day. But I'm thinking hookers are probably would be able to buy more Chevy Volts. They can certainly afford them.
Well, yeah, if they're doing appropriate marketing where they're making more money by leveraging Facebook.
Sure. They need a fan page, not just a regular profile page.
Well, a fan page is actually even better for the hookers on Facebook because then that's sort of like product marketing. And they could have customer satisfaction surveys. They could have quotes from customers. The opportunities are really really great.
Online hooker consultation here on the Hub Internet Show. Right for more. The reason I say this about the Volt,
We'll exchange services. The online hooker consultation. We'll exchange services.
Well, they say back to the Chevy Volt. They say that the Chevy Volt arrived in the showrooms a couple years ago. Now it's out and running into production. And so far, they have only sold about 920, 930 of these things. And the first 100 were bought by the federal government last June, right off the assembly line. So that waters the numbers down even more. But the whole thing about the Volt is that the Volt is... they're saying that it runs on gasoline and a lithium-ion battery. I think it runs on incredulity and alternate routes. Because if you put this electric car, on I-285 perimeter going around the city of Atlanta, a NASCAR super speedway for that matter, you're either going to get run over or you're going to be dead about 5 minutes. Because here's the thing: if you give a guy with a Napoleon complex a Chevy Volt at this point, you're going to have him on a suicide watch within 2 weeks. There will be so much. You don't think so?
No.
You think that you can actually be a man and drive this thing? No horsepower.
Well, okay. Couple things. I don't know what the horsepower of the Chevy Volt is. What I do know is that electric cars can be fast, can be powerful. There's no question about that. I have actually never driven one, but I worked with GM back when they had the Impact. I kind of wish I'd driven one then, but I knew people who did, and they said it was surprisingly powerful and surprisingly good. There are cars now that actually people have developed that are high-end, very fast sports speed cars that are electric. They're extremely expensive, and it's more like, hey, we want to demonstrate this can be done, but you can make them very powerful. You can make them fast. That's actually not the problem. The problem is battery life. That's
the thing. I mean, hookers on Facebook are fast and powerful too, but you can deplete your wallet very quickly with them also.
Yeah, well, if you don't have enough energy, it's not going to work with them either. So,
I mean, we're still it's apples. It's apples to apples here. Yeah. This is why this article fits together nicely.
But the
Yeah.
thing,
Okay. Here's the thing. I mean, they're saying this thing is selling for $45,000.
that's the base price without
The
any
base price,
options like
without any
wheels.
like the cool graphics that,
Yeah.
that basically gives you Al Gore quotes every morning when you wake up,
yeah,
or basically a roast of David Koch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just flashes across your screen like that in the morning. It's really cool. $40,000 for this thing, and they say that after it runs, you can go about 50 miles, 25 to 50 miles on the lithium-ion battery, and then the gas kicks in. So for a lot of folks, you can literally have this car, and they say ultimately it averages out to about 300 miles per tank.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
Well, that's the range.
that's the
range. There's
that's
a
the
difference.
range.
There's with electric vehicles, and I'm a big believer in electric vehicles. As I heard a presentation by James Woolsey, who used to be the head of the CIA, and relative security on this and our dependence on oil. So if you have an electric vehicle that can go, say, 30, 40 miles electric, most people drive less than 30 or 40 miles a day. Now, some people drive more.
And that's my point. If I've got, say my commute's 25 miles into work
Right.
or 20 miles into work, I can go round trip every day on less than 50 miles. I could literally drive this Volt on one tank of gas for the entire time I own it. Right? I never get into the gas. I just run on electric.
And that is the exact point that he was making. He was saying, hey, we're making a big deal about increasing CAFE requirements from 27 miles a gallon to 35 miles a gallon. You have something like this, you're effectively getting 300 or 400 miles a gallon. Because it's got gas, you don't have to worry, is my battery die and I'm just sitting there. You just kick in the gas and you can go as far as you want.
Well, okay, so now see this. So if I'm living, like, say, in Manhattan, okay, so I'm the liberal.
You can't
I only
afford
have
to park
drive
there.
Yeah, I mean, you can't afford to park there, but yeah, I mean, why would I need more than a Chevy Volt to live in a place like that? Because I mean, the most I'm ever going to drive is 20 miles round trip from my little government mandated 500 square foot loft apartment
Yeah.
to my little granola eating job and
Yeah.
back again. But it could work in the other direction too, because if I can actually live, if for example, a big cost of the electric car is that it doesn't work as well for people in Wyoming, middle of nowhere, where it's more expensive to get the electricity to them. Because while my gas bill goes down every month, my electricity bill, oh my God, skyrockets.
Right.
And if I live in Wyoming where I can't get the gas because T. Boone Pickens hadn't figured out how to put the windmill power to me yet, then I'm in trouble. And I guess the left hasn't figured this out yet, right? Because if they put us all on the grid, which is where we'd all have to be in order to drive Volt cars to have readily available electricity, then we have no reason for high-speed choo-choo trains.
Well, no.
Because there's no reason to drive anyway. It's only
I
going 20
would agree
miles.
with it.
They haven't
But-
figured this out yet. When they do, they'll screw the Chevy Volt thing. They'll give the first 100 back to the manufacturer.
No, but with electricity, the point is you can get electricity in the U.S. through coal, through natural gas, through nuclear. Golly, what a concept, nuclear. And so we have the ability to generate the electricity to charge these things up. They plug into the wall. So it's like if you have a house that you park your garage or your car at night, then you have a place you can plug it in. Now, there aren't a lot of people living out in the desert and camps that don't have electricity, and they'd have to get gas anyway. So that's the argument with this. Now, the Chevy Volt, it's not the perfect thing, but I would also say the iPad 2 is coming out this Friday. I'm planning on going and getting one.
Yeah, nerd.
But is that for early adopters?
Yeah, there you go.
But, okay, the Apple made the Newton. And the Newton was a bomb, but it's like the Newton was a predecessor to the iPad, which is an absolute hit that we're all going to have something like that. And I would say the Chevy Volt is kind of like the Newton is to what we're going to have 5 years from now.
I thought Nabisco made the Newton. I ate those
They
all
make
the
the
time.
fake
growing up.
Newtons.
Oh, okay. Different
Apple
Newton.
made the
All right.
Steve Jobs Newton.
Okay, consumer reports. I swear this report on the Chevy Volt was the best review a czar can buy, a car czar can buy. They said overall the Volt is refined, yet it has some quirks. Has a weak electric heater. I can't imagine why. It's an electric car, right? Otherwise, they enjoyed its quiet operation, its brisk acceleration, its taut yet supple ride. But the big
talking about
question,
the hookers again?
See, these articles work together well. We just didn't know how so well. They fit together beautifully, like a hooker and a pimp. Anyway, the whole thing here is that you get a $7,500 tax credit just for buying this $45,000 automobile, which, by the way, if I could afford a $45,000 automobile, I can just as easily afford the $75,000 automobile. So why the hell do I care about the gas prices anyway? But if I get the $7,500 tax credit, I am essentially now paying $37,000 for the car, including a really big ass installment check on April 15th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
But ultimately.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, homeschool parents that choose to homeschool their kids. They're still having to pay for the schooling anyway, even though they're not using the public school. So you might as well buy a Chevy Volt because you're paying for it anyway, right?
Yeah.
The installment check.
You get a discount. So.
I'm being facetious. I hate this car. Okay.
But the concept is the right way to go. It's even if this is not
If
the
it
ideal
was-
car, again, it's the Apple Newton versus the iPad.
Well, and I'm not so sure because, they haven't really looked at the cost associated with the electricity that takes on this. And certainly getting the kind of grid, getting the kind of outlay that would support this readily available energy source that will need to drive these things.
The grid's already there. We need to improve our grid. We need to make an investment in that area. But the grid that can charge these things up. In fact, one of the advantages of these is that you tend to charge them overnight, which is the time when you're typically not using as much electricity. And so it actually allows you to manage the electrical utilities better.
Well, for example, though, in cold areas where you buy these cars, you live in a cold area. Say you live in Boston or you live in New York.
Yeah.
Okay, and you buy this car. They found out that the gas, the engine actually kicks in a lot earlier.
Of course.
If it's colder because the heater is not sustaining both the car and the heat that you need to keep your little bosom warm.
Well, heater's going to burn your energy that's in your batteries.
Well,
and the batteries
and that's the whole thing. So it's basically like when I need it most, it's like the old man that gets up in the morning and feels the cold in his bones deep down inside. He just goes, crap. I don't even want to feel like it. He turns up, he eats breakfast, he eats his curds and whey, and he goes back to bed. In other words, it doesn't even really get into the game
If he's
when you
Charlie
need it.
Sheen, he gets a hooker.
That's true, which you can find on
Or
Facebook.
two goddesses, I'm sorry.
And she can drive him from their Facebook to the dinner place in her Chevy Volt. So they're saying here in the article in Consumer Reports, the Volt has been averaging close to 2 miles per kilowatt an hour, which according to the EPA is the equivalent of 65 miles per gallon, or I guess whatever they uploaded to your odometer from your onboard GPS system while you were asleep the night before. So it's kind of hard to tell, when you're getting these readings from them. They say the figure is misleading though because it doesn't count the electricity that you actually use when they say you're getting X number of miles to the gallon, because after all, a big percentage of that you're not even really factoring the gas in. So,
Right.
so I guess if I only drive 25 miles per day, like I said before, I'm not really spending. I could drive on the same tank of gas the life of the car.
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So here we go. They say at the national average rate of about 11 cents per kilowatt, the Volt would cost about 5.7 cents per mile in electric mode, and then about 10 cents a mile beyond that, assuming gas is $3 per gallon, which I guess assumes the return of the 12th EMOM by June.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be $6.
You did see my posting about the $200 barrel oil trading that's going on for June delivery.
Really? Okay. Yeah, I know they're holding on to
the call
it.
options for $200 barrel oil is.
Oh yeah,
is
they're stockpiling it. We've got oil in this country. It's all sitting in crates and barrels in the Midwest right now, where they're building out the yin yang.
It's like old Coke. People
Yeah.
probably still have bottles of old Coke somewhere.
Well, here's the ticket, though, and here's where the Chevy Volt car doesn't make economic sense. It says that, yes, it's roughly 10 cents a gallon for the Volt, but by contrast, the Toyota Prius costs 6.8 cents per mile. A gas-powered Honda Fiat costs about 10 cents a mile in gas. So, but the price of those cars is about $45,000 compared to the Chevy Volt $45,000. It's about half that same price. So basically, you'd have to drive another 250,000 miles to make up the difference in the cost. And for those of you counting at home, that is roughly 52 trips between Motor City, where you picked up the vehicle, and the Birkenstock store in Berkeley that you stopped at on the way to the Save the Planet U2 concert. I guess if you're using up the electricity on in your automobile and blasting your Grateful Dead, that's 26 round trips. Either way, you're talking about a lot of extra driving, 250,000 extra miles to get to make up the difference.
Joel, I don't think you're getting ready to go down to the car dealership and buy one of these, are you?
You could say that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, yeah. I will say this is an early adopter thing. This is learning how to make them. It's developing the technology, expanding the technology, the manufacturing capability. So, and taking that to scale. Whenever you do anything like this, it's going to start with low numbers of manufactured, and they're going to be very expensive, and then the price is going to come down.
But see here, this is the thing, Barry. You don't have to give into that. You don't have to give into the early adopter peer pressure from your similar social network.
You can be buying an iPad
you
on
could
Friday?
just be an individual like all the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, here
I'm not buying one of these cars.
You're right, and I'm obviously not. Okay, so here we go. It says in some regions in the article here, Consumer Reports, such as the Northeast, you might pay a lot more for electricity. I mentioned that before, and less in some other places. So, ultimately, it's kind of a wash until they can get you to a place where you can they can get electricity readily available to where you can afford to get this thing. And that's the point I keep coming back to. Plus the fact that the battery is in the back seat right in the center.
Yeah.
And unless I guess you're going to use this as a cheap alternative heated seat for your child's safety seat,
Ooh,
just stick it
cool.
on top. Yeah.
Well,
There's use for everything.
I think until we get to the Mr. Fusion, we're clearly going down that path. But this is sort of the interim step that's going to be part of getting us there.
Well,
I'm not going to buy one, but I'm glad other people are, and I'm glad it's going in this direction because it gets us out of Mideast oil, so we don't have to worry about the crap that's going on down there.
Yeah.
Which we have to worry more and more.
Well, yeah, exactly. They said the center console is kind of cool. Touch-sensitive buttons on the dash that control the climate and the radio. I thought the radio controlled the climate on long trips.
The radio control.
Yeah, two along the same. Which is one more reason why these articles go together so nice. We will see you tomorrow on The Hump.
As a crunch and show